Yu-Gi-Oh! The Shining Sarcophagus Archetype by TGS Anime.
The Shining Sarcophagus Archetype are a series of cards based on iconic monsters and moments used by Yugi when he dueled without the Pharaoh by his side, with the central card to the archetype being the Shining Sarcophagus itself. The cards first released in the 2024 pack, Legacy of Destruction.
I've heard of these. I have not seen what these have done. So this is effectively me looking at these for the first time.
In a way, you could say this deck is the true modern-day version of Yugi's original deck. As opposed to the near 24 decks his deck has spun off into in the modern day for each of his individual monsters. And if you think I'm over-exaggerating, you really want to check this video out. The way the deck works is that all the cards in the archetype revolve around their core card, Shining Sarcophagus. It has the...
So what does this even do? Like, he's going to tell me what it does in a second, obviously. So it cannot be destroyed by monster effects. Okay, sure. Sure, I guess. You can only use one of the following effects, Shining Sarcophagus, once each turn during your main phase, so main phase 1 or 2. Add one card that mentions Shining Sarcophagus from your deck to your hand, except Shining Sarcophagus. Okay, so it kind of functions similar to Yubel in certain aspects. If your opponent, like getting Samsara D Lotus and stuff like that, Gravescormer card that mentions Yubel, right? If your opponent special summons a monster from the graveyard, this is the second effect, except during the damage step, you can discard one spell, target one of those monsters, send it to the graveyard. Interesting.
Effect, it cannot be destroyed by monster effects. During your main phase, you can add one card that mentions Shining Sarcophagus from your deck to your hand, except another of itself. If your opponent special summons a monster from the graveyard, you can discard one spell card, target one of those monsters, send it to the grave. We have a ton of references with this card. First of all, if it wasn't obvious, this card is based on Gold Sarcophagus, which is the card Yugi used to defeat the Pharaoh with, which itself is the card form version of the mystical golden box that the Millennium Puzzle arrived in, making it only fitting that this box the Pharaohs brought into the world with would be the same one to eventually send him back to the afterlife with.
Narratively, it's honestly really good.
Box. It has a kind of glow.
You're right. This box is very special.
Now, interestingly, the real world and the anime version of Gold Sarcophaguses both have different effects. But both of their effects are referenced in the new Shining Sarcophagus. For instance, in the real world, Gold Sarcophagus had the effect, banish one card from your deck face up. During your second standby phase, after this card's activation, add that card to the hand. This effect...
Gold Sark has spent a number of years, spent some time on the ban list in some capacity. I think it usually stays around limited.
...is referenced in this card's first effect to add any Shining Sarcophagus card from your deck to your hand. In the anime, Gold Sarcophagus's effect was you could remove from play one card from your deck face down. If your opponent activates or summons a card of the same name during the duel, you can reveal the removed card to negate the activation or summon of that card and destroy it. This Graveyard Denial is referenced in this card's second effect. The cost of discarding a spell to use the effect alludes to how Yugi defeated the Pharaoh by sealing his Monster Reborn spell inside the box, which is itself a metaphor for Yugi letting go of the Pharaoh, denying revival from the graveyard in order for his friend to go to the afterlife.
You see why a lot of people are so upset. I was at an LGS. I was playing Branded, actually. This was before I had Yubel fully assembled. And people were like, yeah, the new Yu-Gi-Oh series just isn't Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, can you imagine if we had an absolute banger like Duel Monsters 2.0 that actually had, like, the storytelling and stuff behind it? Obviously, it's going to be, you know, product, right? Product placement. Hey, cool, the protagonist, you know, pulled off this card, please buy our packs, now $499.99 releasing on this date, right? Like, you know, can be ham-fisted like that. I don't even care. But, like, this level of storytelling in a modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, I think it'd do a lot of good for the game. I think it'd drum up a lot of interest, especially with the game in the state that it is right now for a lot of people. A lot of people are not liking Snake Eyes. A lot of people not liking the Fiendsmith engine, me included. As somebody that plays Yubel, I have every reason to like it, except the price point's a little bit high. Obviously, that's going to be supply versus demand, having a very metagame engine, especially needing to run triplicate, the full 3 of copies at the highest rarity in the set. Obviously, supply and demand is going to make the cards more expensive, but I think this would help invigorate a lot of people. It would help inspire a lot of people to come back into the game. Anything after G was goofy. I love GX. You kidding me? Season 3 of GX went super hard. There was so much dark stuff in there. It was great.
This is something that is also referenced in the Dark Side of Dimensions duel. Yugi gives him the Monster Reborn as a reference to say, look, I'm not bringing the Pharaoh back. You take my Monster Reborn because I ain't bringing anything back from the graveyard here. Because in the manga, Kaiba never witnessed the final duel, so we never got closure. Now,
in the manga.
as for the other iconic Yugi
That
cards that have been transformed into shining versions of themselves, identifiable by their new golden accented designs and shiny sparkles in the background, well, we have a lot of new effects to go over. So, let's go through each one, see what iconic monster they are based on, and what accompanying support card supports them.
So my one issue with Shining Sarcophagus is that it is a continuous spell, which means it looks like there was an effect that if it tries to activate and it gets destroyed, that's like the rare instance where MST technically negates, right? Like if you activated Fire Formation Tenki, which is a continuous spell card, right? Or even I guess like Nightmare Pain on Yubel, and then it's destroyed because it's a continuous, it doesn't actually get its effect because it's no longer on the field. Important thing to know, MST does not technically negate. Like that still is true. However, when it's MST, Mystical Space Typhoon, or other back row destruction is used on a continuous card like that, you run into the card's not on the field, so it can't actually like resolve, so Tenki doesn't get its what search.
Start first with Dark Magician. This card got upgraded into Dark Magician, the Magician of Black Magic. This card's name becomes Dark Magician while in the Monster Zone.
Okay.
If Shining Sarcophagus is on the field, you can special summon this card from the hand. If this card is destroyed by card effect, and a level 5 or higher monster is on the field, you can special summon this card, then you can set one spell or trap from your deck that mentions Dark Magician.
I'm sorry. He's just annoying. Are you kidding me? Card destroyed by card effect, and you have the level 5 or higher monster on the field. So say, I don't know. Raigeki. No, not even Raigeki. I guess Raigeki breaks more technically. Like anything that like actually like destroys him, but you have another 5 or higher on the field. He just comes back and then you can just actually plus set one spell and track that mentions Dark Magician. Good God, that's funny.
Now, some of you might be saying, well, this card is more of the Pharaoh's card, so why is it a part of Yugi's Shining Sarcophagus deck? Well, it's actually because after the end of the series, Yugi re-added this card to his deck, which is what we see in the Dark Side of Dimensions. Now, thanks to the Dark Magician, the Magician of Black Magic's effect, it can search and set a very specific card in the deck face down. A card that pairs extremely well with it, and as well, it is an upgraded version of Yugi's iconic Mirror Force trap, and that card is Dark Magic Mirror Force. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, or an opponent's monster's effect is activated that would destroy a monster on the field, and a monster that mentions Shining Sarcophagus is on the field, the first time each monster you control that mentions Shining Sarcophagus would be destroyed by battle or card effect for the rest of this turn. After this card resolves, it is not destroyed. Okay. Also, destroy as many opponent's attack position monsters as possible. Then, if you control Dark Magician, inflict 500 damage to them for each monster destroyed.
I mean, so that's technically out of sequence. But relevant in terms of effect, but out of sequence, right? So let's see here. Monsters on the field while monster mentions Shining Sarcophagus is on the field. Destroy as many attack position monster your opponent controls as possible, comma, which is then leads into, then if you control a Dark Magician, comma, so Dark Magician necessary for this, inflict 5 damage for each monster destroyed. Also for the rest of this turn, God, this is a run-on sentence. Also for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, first time each monster, so the 500 does happen first in sequence. The first time each monster you control that mentions Sarcophagus would be destroyed, or card effect, it is not destroyed. So everything for the first time gets a protection, which is interesting. So say activating this, Dark Magician is going to get destroyed. Dark Magician does not get destroyed, right? This version of Dark Magician. But the second time, it would get destroyed. Also, keyword is destruction. So if I, as a Yubel player, flip up my Super Poly and eat your board, does not stop that. Whoops.
Fun fact! The way you activate this card is how the anime and manga versions of Mirror Force work. The anime version activates upon being attacked, while the manga version also activates when an effect that would destroy activates, but that effect is treated like an attack.
Interesting.
For example, Yami Yugi defends himself in the manga from Gandora's board destruction effect with his Mirror Force, since Gandora's effect is treated like an attack. In fact, the scene depicted in this card's artwork is what this is from. Gandora's destruction ability being negated by Mirror Force. The damaging effect in this
What is happening with each player? I've never actually read the manga, so this is actually interesting to hear from that side.
card comes from how Mirror Force worked during the Duelist Kingdom arc. Back then, Duelist Kingdom had a rule that if a monster was destroyed via a card effect, well, the owner of that monster would take a portion of its attack points as damage.
Can you, okay, that would actually help with time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Though, actually. Because how time rules work, where it's like the current phase, regardless of where you're at, your current phase. So if you're in main 1 going to battle, but you're still in main 1, you're stuck in main 1. Can you imagine how this would affect time rules? Good God.
The most notable example is when Weevil attacks into Yugi's Mirror Force. His monsters are destroyed, and he takes a portion of the damage from the monsters. So it's not technically a Mirror Force effect, but is a consequence of Mirror Force being used during a certain era.
Yeah.
If you wanted to revamp a bunch of different cards from that era, if they appeared in Duelist Kingdom and they could destroy a card, just give them a little bit of a burn effect.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you want to. Summon Skull. This card got upgraded into Archfiend's Advent. While you control a Shining Sarcophagus, you can normal summon this card without tributing.
Okay.
Other monsters you control gain 500 attack during your turn only.
Sure.
If this card is normal or special summoned, you can target one monster your opponent controls, take control of it until the end phase.
Sure.
But that monster cannot attack unless you controlled Shining Sarcophagus when this effect was activated. This monster is a...
So what, it's like mind control, right? Just link it off, right? Cool, I'm gonna eat your thing, I'm gonna link it off. It's like how I was playing the U-Bell Mirror, and they sacked, I think it was their Samsara D Lotus. They sacked their Lotus to grab Relinquished Anima, and they ate my Loving Defender forever that I ate their board with Super Poly with. It was actually really cute. I loved it. That was really funny. Like, you don't, I mean, obviously you're going to have the Shining Sarcophagus on the field, right? Like, obviously you're going to have it. But, I mean, in main too, if you wanted to use the attack, you can go for a link play, it sounds like. There's nothing, you can just sack it away if you really want to do it. It doesn't seem like there's any restriction on that.
weird one. An iconic monster used by Yugi, the Summoned Skull. Makes sense to have it in the archetype. However, its new retrained effects, I don't know what they're references to. Boosting other monsters' attacks and taking control of an opponent's monster. If you guys have any idea what this could be derived from, could be from like a synchro version or something from the manga or possibly from one of the later series or something. Logically, it would have made sense to give this monster the effect of Makyu the Magical Mists, which was able to destroy monsters, but it also did boost Summon Skull's effect, depending on when it was used kind of thing. So I guess they could have given it that ability, but for the time being, let me know in the comment section below if you know.
I wonder if this is it's not Panic. Whoever was in GX season 1, right? The horror duelist who used Archfiend, District Archfiend Pandemonium. I wonder if there's some influences because for all intents and purposes, Summon Skull is an Archfiend card. It even says it right in the as a trait, right? But that was kind of a correction because Englishization, right, coming over the TCG. It's like how Frog the Jam is not a frog card, right? It's supposed to be what, Slime Toad, something like that. I could see it maybe being that. I'd have to look at the Archfiend effects and actually watch the GX episode then. It wasn't Panix. I don't remember who it is. I don't remember what his name is. But you know who I'm talking about.
Gandora, the Dragon of Destruction. This card got upgraded into Gandora G, the Dragon of Destruction. Gains 300 attack for each banished card.
Sure.
If you control Shining Sarcophagus, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can pay half your life points to destroy as many other cards on the field as possible. And if you do, banish them, then special summon one level 7 or lower monster that mentions Shining Sarcophagus from your deck, and increase its level by the number of cards destroyed by this effect.
Does that mean that there's a maximum level, though? So hold up. Reading its effect, you can only activate once per turn, which is a common restriction. You control Shining Sarcophagus. Okay, that's a requirement. You can special summon this card from your hand. He seems like he's the playmaker. I wonder if you run him at... You probably run him at 2, right? I don't see this being a 3 of for consistency's sake. I see this as a 2 of. Let me know if you play Shining Sark and know what the ratios are. You can pay half your life points. I mean, we pay half our life points for Solemn and other stuff anyways. Destroy as many other cards on the field as possible, and if you do, banish them. And it gains an attack for each banished card. So hypothetically, say your opponent had a full board of 10, right? 5 spell trap, 5 monster. We're not going to include Link Zone, right? Say they have 10. And you were to activate this effect and they banish their 10, then you special summon 1 level 7 or lower monster that mentions Shining Sarcophagus from your deck, but then you increase the level by the number of cards. So what if you do the Archfiend one we just saw, right? Archfiend one level 6, right? It's Summon Skull 2.0. So does that mean you increase it by 10 levels to level 16? Or does it only increase to a maximum of level 12? Because inherently, I'd have to see the rulebook. I'd have to see if its monsters are from level 1 to 12, or if it's just the stars designate the level of the monster. I'd be very interested to see how this is ruled. If there's no reason for it to be, a level 16 monster. There's zero reason, right? You can't make Ixie plays with it, right? You can make I don't know, it doesn't help Synchro, it doesn't help Ixie. I mean, you could just link it off, you could fuse it. You could go Dragoon with this guy, right? Because he's a dragon, right? I mean, I don't know. What's the ruling on that? It's like how there's a ruling, so you can droplet Yubel. I didn't know this. I disagreed with the ruling inherently, or at least the part that any activation requiring halving or modifying or decreasing an attack of a 0 position monster, because two monsters that attack each other with 0 attack will do nothing to each other because there's no attack, right? If they had 100, right, they destroy each other because an attack value is present, but 0, which is relevant in Yubel, right, we don't have an attack value. So we just kind of crash into each other and we do nothing. It just becomes an aggressive sponge fight at that point. But if you're getting dropleted and it says to decrease the attack value, anything that is contingent on the attack value drop, even though it's 0 and it still is technically affected, therefore you get the effect. I disagreed with that because there's 0, there's not an attack value, but it was ruled, and apparently this is the ruling where, yes, it will attempt to do it. It can't do anything, but you will still get the effect. Go into a negative, you can't. There's no negative in Yu-Gi-Oh! As far as I'm aware, not on any cards I've come across. So I'd be interested to hear the ruling if it can go above level 12 or if it will cap at level 12. Because we're doing what the card is saying. Summon a level 6 or lower monster, 7 or lower monster that mentions this. We summon it and increase its level, but what happens if it increases over 12? That's the interaction at play here. This is why Yu-Gi-Oh! Gets into rulings, right? Yu-Gi-Oh! Problem-solving card text, PCST, right? PSCT, right? Is, cool, read the card, know what it does. But for an interaction like this, where it's not explicitly stated, I'm sure it's in the rulebook somewhere that maybe it'll max at 12. If anything, the ruling might default to it being 12.
Its effect to special summon a level 7 or lower monster comes from a play that occurred during the anime. It was where Yugi wipes his and Bakura's field with this monster's effect, which triggers the effect of Spirit Sword of Sealing, which returns Silent Swordsman back to the field, which, neatly, its second effect plays into perfectly, as the new silent cards in this archetype benefit greatly from having their levels increased after they are summoned. In fact, speaking of, Silent Magician level 4. This got upgraded into Silent Magician 0.
Oh, that's cool.
If your opponent draws a card, increase this card's level by the number drawn. While this card's level is higher than its original level, it gains attack equal to the difference times 500. When your opponent activates a spell card or effect while you control Shining Sarcophagus, quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, increase this card's level by 1.
Okay.
This monster pairs really well with its accompanying support card, which it appears in the artwork of, albeit.
Let's read that over again really quick. So if your opponent draws a card, so this is only intrinsic on a single draw, right? It's like Pot of Greed, right? Draw 2, you're still drawing 2 in the interaction, but it's either they draw 1 or they draw X amount of cards, therefore increases the level by the number drawn. So if your opponent Pot of Greeds for some reason, right, it's activating while an opponent draws a card to increase this. That does not actually seem once per turn, though, which is interesting to consider. It's relevant to be worded that way, because I guess when it actually activates. But it's interesting that that doesn't seem like it's once per turn. Yeah, and then while this card's level is higher than its original level, it doesn't care if it's level 17, hypothetically, right? As long as it's higher, it gains attack equal to the difference times 500. So if you can exceed level 12, right? If you can go to level, say, 17, that would mean you would have, what, 4 to 17? That's a difference of 13. 13 times 5. That's going to be... Oh, goddamn, I have to actually do math. 6,500 increase, so it'd be a 7,500 beater. Then while your opponent activates a card effect, while you control Shining Sarcophagus quick effect, so opponent activates a spell card effect specifically, I can negate the activation, and if I do, increase this card's level by 1. I can only use this effect Silent Magician once per turn. And I'm pretty sure if you were to negate the effect of this monster, its level and attack and defense would reset, right? It would reset to what is printed on the card.
Activation, and if you do, increase this card's level by 1. This monster pairs really well with its accompanying support card, which it appears in the artwork of, albeit its older version form. Future Silence. Its effect is add one monster that mentions Shining Sarcophagus from your deck to your hand. Then, if you activated this during the battle phase while you control Shining Sarcophagus and a monster that mentions it, each player draws until they have 6 cards in their hand.
What?
Future Silence is based...
What? What do you mean? What? Bro, did we actually get Card of Sanctity? No joke? Okay, so it's just like, it's engaged with value. What do you mean? Well, I mean, Strike Engage already has value, don't get me wrong. I'm sorry. What? Why would it reset if it had its effect negated? So say if you Valor it, would its effect and level because its effect is modifying the level and the attack, right? So therefore, if it got veiled, effect negated, it would default to what's on the card, right? That's what I was mentioning. Yeah. So I'm sorry. Quick play effect. You get value strictly. It is a net 0, right? You are using this to get a card, right? So 0 in card advantage because you use a card to get a card. However, you can. This plays very much like Sky Striker to me. Add one more card that mentions Shining card from your deck to your hand. Mentions, I don't think named. I'd have to see if Shining Sarcophagus is in the effect text again. If you activated this card during the battle phase while you controlled Shining Sarcophagus proper and a monster that mentions it, each player draws until they have 6 cards in their hand. Bro, I'm just going to pick this up. I'm going to play this in Exodia, okay? F the current metagame. I have my Yubel deck. I got Branded. I got Sky Striker, okay? I think I'm good at meta. I'm going to build this. I'm just going to go ham into this now. This is going to be the deck. I'm just going to, like, put cards on board. Do I win? Yes, no. Wow.
Hands. Future Silence is based on Card of Sanctity. Both cards let you draw until each player holds 6 cards. Future Silence's artwork as well is actually based on the scene where Yugi uses Card of Sanctity during Atem's battle phase. Silent Magician rapidly evolved into its more powerful form thanks to this card's effects. The paramour to Silent Magician is, of course, Silent Swordsman.
Yeah.
Silent Swordsman level 3. This got upgraded into Silent Swordsman 0.
I honestly thought the level monsters had such cool things going for them. Like Armed Dragon level 5 and 7 were kind of great, right? But I feel they just got dated as a mechanic way too quick. Yeah, also don't play Slifer. No, Slifer's a brick. Do not play Slifer.
Once per turn during the standby phase, increase this card's level by 1. While this card's level is higher than its original level, it gains attack equal to the difference times 500.
During the standby phase, both yours and your opponent's.
When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets Shining Sarcophagus, or a monster that mentions it, that you control, quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, increase this card's level by 1. This monster pair...
That actually hard counters you, Bell. That actually counters Phantom. God, that counters Phantom. Okay, that's a thing, because I would be targeting a monster activating an effect to change the effect to I destroy 1 Yubel in my hand, field, or graveyard, right? That actually is a relevant interaction I have to worry about.
As extremely well with its accompanying card, which itself appears in the artwork for, but the older version of it. Turn Silence. Target one face-up monster you control, increase its level by 3.
Sure.
Also, if you activated this card in response to your opponent's monster effect activation, While you control Shining Sarcophagus and a monster that mentions it, negate that opponent's effect. During damage calculation, if your monster that mentions Shining Sarcophagus battles, you can banish this card from your graveyard, end the battle.
End the battle, it's a fader!
Turn Silence, by the way, is based on Turn Jump, since both of these cards allow...
I've never seen turn jump. Activate only during the battle phase. Each player passes their turn without playing for 3 of their turns. Also, they cannot draw during the draw phase. Resume play from the battle phase 6 turns after activation. Okay, I'm going to get a full, binder of these. You know how there's those people that they have, Exodia on the front page? They have, little D between the legs, right? And they have, I don't know, Apocalypse Towers or what. They get a binder of a certain card. Maybe they have a binder of Marshmallow. I'm just going to get a binder of these. Hold up. How actually expensive are these things? I need to know. TCG player, tell me the things. I've never seen this card. It's like chain material we watched in the Ubel video. What do you mean, dude? This is right up my alley. This is some stupid, janky Shahrazad status stuff. Okay, so it doesn't actually exist. God, if it existed, though, I'd buy it. Are you... That's silly.
Silence, by the way, is based on Turn Jump, since both of these cards allow Silent Swordsman to grow by 3 levels.
Look, all I'm saying... There's 10,000 plus cards. I can only keep track of so many of them. Yeah, yeah.
This play was actually seen used in both of Yugi's duels. One against Bakura, and the other against the Pharaoh. Green Gadget, Red Gadget, Yellow Gadget. These 3 cards got combined and upgraded into Gadget Trio. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add 1 Shining Sarcophagus or 1 spell or trap that mentions it from your deck to your hand. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can set 1 Stronghold the Hidden Fortress from your deck. This monster pairs extremely well with its accompanying support card, Stronghold the Hidden Fortress. Special summon this card as an effect monster, with the following effects.
Right.
Also, it's still a trap. Gains 1000 attack for each Shining Sarcophagus, a monster that mentions it that you control.
That's relevant.
Once per turn, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, while you control Shining Sarcophagus, you can destroy that monster.
I mean, it's kind of cute. I think it's better than Stronghold the Moving Fortress, right? I feel this has more utility. It is still a trap card, so it is still pretty slow. The 1000 attack per Shining Sarc and monsters that mention it, that's relevant. And then declaring an attack while you control it, you can just destroy that monster. So it's kind of like what Sakuretsu Armor. Yeah, because it's on attack declaration. That's not bad.
Now, this card is based on Stronghold the Moving Fortress, another of Yugi's cards that he used against the Pharaoh. Interestingly, this card can also serve as a boss monster for the archetype, as since it gains 1000 attack for each Shining Sarcophagus and monster that mentions it you can control, this card can have a lot of attack points.
Yeah.
In fact, there's more. To get the 3 gadgets out together, Yugi used the card Ties of the Brethren, which, guess what, has its own Shining Sarcophagus variant.
What?
It's known as Ties That Bind. If you control Shining Sarcophagus and a monster that mentions it, special summon up to 2 level 4 or lower monsters with different names that mention Shining Sarcophagus from your hand or deck. Also, for the rest of this turn, after the card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. Now, the Ties That Bind and the Ties of the Brethren, this is just a theory, but they might be playable versions of the Ties of Friendship. Which,
I can see that.
was the card that Yugi won for winning Duelist Kingdom.
Right.
What happened to it? He gave it to Rebecca Hawkins as a sign of their friendship.
Yeah.
Marshmallow and Marshmallow Glasses. These cards got combined and upgraded into more Marshmallow. What?
I hate that. I hate it. I hate it. It's so good, though.
Woo. You control Shining Sarcophagus. This card cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, your opponent's monsters cannot target monsters for attacks except this one.
Okay, cool. So it's Nightmare Pain as a body. Got it.
Your opponent's turn, if you control Shining Sarcophagus, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is destroyed by card effect, you can special summon 1 more Marshmallow from your hand, deck, graveyard, or banishment, except this card. And if you do, 1000 damage to your opponent. That sounds weirdly worded, but it just means you can't banish the same more Marshmallow.
Right.
When it's banished, you have to get a different one, basically.
Yeah.
This monster's effect that prevents itself from being destroyed by a battle is, of course, based on the first effect of Marshmallow.
And glasses.
While its effect to inflict 1,000 damage to the opponent is based on the second effect of Marshmallow. This monster's effect that prevents the opponent's monsters from targeting other monsters for attacks is based on the effect of Marshmallow Glasses, which is a card Yugi used against Bakura. The monster's effect to special summon another copy of itself when it's destroyed is actually based on the effect of Marsh Macaron, another counterpart of Marshmallow.
That's why it reads like an actual paragraph. The text on More Marshmallow is actually, like, it doesn't say a whole lot, but it does at the same time.
At this point, I'd like to point out how a lot of the cards in this archetype have game-winning potential. Gandora can wipe the field and gain attack for every banished card. Silent Swordsman and Silent Magician can get insane attacks by having their levels boosted, and the same can be said for the Stronghold Trap. That's a lot of attack points for a trap monster.
Yeah.
Overall, I'd say the strength of this deck is its versatility, something that Yugi himself was famed for. And guess what? With that, that is the entirety of the Shining Sarcophagus Archetype done. Technically, it's a series, but I'm calling it Archetype anyway because it's just better for the title. I definitely think there's going to be more support cards. There's so many more cards that we still need to see. What other iconic solo Yugi card would you like to see added to this archetype? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you'd like to watch Yugi solo dueling, I have a video of me analyzing it right here. But other than that, thank you all for watching. Catch you later.
I mean, that's a good question. When I think of Yugi, I think of, like, usually Atem's cards, actually. Gaia, but wasn't Gaia more Atem anyways? Like Gaia, Karibo. I guess, to be fair, we have Summon Skull in there, right, as the new Archfiend card. So we could see, Berfomet, Archfiend of Gilfer, Giant Soldier of Stone. That's an Exodia right now, I thought. No, it's not. That's Millennium Golem. We could see Giant Soldier of Stone, Silverfang. Like, there's Buster Blader, but I think that's more Atem. There's a lot, because they're kind of mixing a little bit here. I mean, I'm sold. If you are a budget player, however, I regret to inform you, Shining Sarcophagus is still, unfortunately, pretty up there. It actually saw a little bit of a jump recently. I should have got these when they were like 15. Like, it's now like 30 a piece. But I mean, like, you've seen the amount of just buku shenanigans that this archetype is doing. So if you're a budget player, if this interests you, potentially wait for a reprint or for it to just crash and go down. I like that, though. I hadn't actually seen what this archetype did. Thank you, TGS Anime, for such an informative and well-presented video. I really love this. If you have not seen TGS Anime, down below in the description section, you'll see a link to his channel as well as this original video. Definitely recommend you go check that out. I've been trying to do some Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff. It's just a matter of finding space and time to do it. I'm currently playing Yubel, Sky Striker, Branded. I'm just getting the pieces for the Team Samurai X1 Exodia deck. I got my Wedgie Temples, got my Onken. I'm probably going to show up to LGS's and just try to, slam Exodia down. Not necessarily the most competitive, but it's funny at the very least. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you want more Kip Yugi content. Let me know if you didn't know about TGS Anime and now you want to go watch TGS Anime. You want to watch their backlog, which you do want to watch the backlog. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.